Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion, reeling in the years, waiting for the next DLC pack in the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus Booster Pack 17 edition. 1 WPL, good morning to America, my favorite television program. If I thought I had the cerebral overclocking, processor power, clock cycle ability to make a parody of Steely Dan's Reeling in the Years with Isaac items in it, I would, okay? But I honestly don't, because he talks so fast in that song. The things that may have happened, I don't understand. You know, it's just like, it's basically like uncle rap. You've heard of mumble rap? Steely Dan is uncle rap. And that's not a negative thing. It's just when rock and roll musicians talk fast. We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. Oh yes, that's uncle rap. The thing is, we didn't start the fire. Billy Joel doesn't speak that fast. Moreover, it's really easy to remember the words because there's like no grammatical constructs in it. It's just nouns over and over. Joe McCarthy, Richard Nixon, Studebaker, television, North Korea, South Korea, Marilyn Monroe. You know, it just never... In other songs, you want to know the words, sometimes you gotta remember some complex ideas. We didn't start the fire, you just gotta have lived on this planet throughout like the probably like the 1930s to the 1970s. I think that's acceptable. Anyway, where was I going with this? I'm very pro Steely Dan recently. I remember in like the year 2000, so I was like 12 years old. It might have been 2001, who knows, right? But Steely Dan won Album of the Year at the Grammys. And like most people my age, I said, who? They beat the Backstreet Boys Millennium? That seems ridiculous. They did an interview series with people like on the Toronto streets. Oh, please. You know, Yonge Street, Bloor Street, Queen Street East, Mavity Street. I know all the streets, don't you? Somebody watching this that lives on Mavity Street is gonna be like, yo, what the heck? He knows my tiny street? I know all the streets, okay? A grand don't come for free. Original pirate material. I'm very familiar. And everybody they talked to was like, I don't know who Steely Dan is. They were missing out, and to be honest, I was missing out as well. Reeling in the Years, Ricky, don't lose that number. I was gonna say Taking It to the Streets, but that's not Steely Dan, that's the Doobie Brothers. Why are you talking about music, NL? It's because I got a new cellular telephone for my birthday. The cellular telephone does not have a headphone jack, which, yes, in the moment, I was like, oh, that's a bummer. But then I just got like a really cheap pair of Bluetooth earbuds, and it's been totally fine. Better? No, I mean, you know, I'm a pretty old school, I'm an old school guy. I use a rotary telephone. Actually, this is reminding me that I had a dream last night about what if there was like a a car company. I think we should take this actually. And every other car company is like, we're introducing the electric car of the future. What if there was a car company that was like, we're introducing the electric car of the past? People were like, what does that mean? It has a charge maximum range on one single charge of 100 meters. And in order to power it up, the passenger or the driver, if they're driving solo, has to use a very convoluted hand crank. Help me. Thank you. No deal with the devil because of architectural reasons. What a world. They have to use like a hand crank, and when they crank it, it's like really large, and it goes and you know, you also pedal it with your feet like Fred Flintstone. What's the point of this, NL? Well, okay, look. Nobody would buy it. I accept that. But it would make for a funny press conference. You know, I'm not in the business of selling cars. I'm in the business of trying to make people laugh. I think that's where Elon got confused when he unveiled the Cybertruck. He thought he was doing my job. Ooh, NL, that's... Ooh, yikes, NL. You can't... Don't leave Elon alone. Look. You can go back. You know, I've been doing this job for a long time. I've said things about Elon Musk. When you know, in like 2012, everybody was like, Elon Musk is Iron Man. And I was like, Elon Musk is Iron Man. He's saving the world. One electric vehicle at a time. Then when he started losing it on social media a little bit, I was like, hey, listen. He might be losing it on social media a little bit. But he's still a hero, okay? Leave him alone. This is like a carbon copy of our last run. It's the same items. You know, he's doing his part. Why tear him down? You know, just he's doing more than any of us. And then he just kept losing it over and over. And I went, okay, you know what? Here's where I'm at with Elon Musk right now. I would love a Tesla. Maybe not the Cybertruck. But if you're like, hey, you know, would you like to have a Tesla 3 or, you know, the SUV or a Model S? Oh, yes. Absolutely. I think it's more than just a cool automobile. It's spectacular. Do I like Elon Musk? Oh, God, no. I think, it actually just makes me a little sad. And this is very judgmental. Maybe if you were a billionaire, you would live your life differently than I would live my life were I a billionaire. But I would like to think that I would not be so concerned with my reputation on social media and, you know, kind of like compromising my ability to run my business by, you know, posting slanderous accusations on Twitter and so on and so forth. But hey, man, those are just my values, okay? Here's the thing. You want the perfect situation? His car, my tweets. That's the way to get it done. If you could get both of those, if you could get that in a single package, it wouldn't be fair for the rest of humanity. When was the last time we fought Carrion Queen as a boss? I feel like it's been 200 years. We're 6 minutes in, 4 floors deep, and just got our first deal with the devil. What's happening? It's a strange run. Yet there's not really much reason for us to go back. We got both item rooms. Let's explore a little bit. We got time. You also should not really take my advice on vehicles. Might not be fair that a single bad vehicle purchase has compromised my ability, or my credibility, I should say. But, you know, it's fair enough. I just don't care about cars that much. Did not mean to use it, but actually that's not bad. I know, and it's not a negative thing. Like, I actually, when I was younger, it was like a cultural thing, you know? Like, I went to a very rural high school. The kids who were into cars were the kids who were not traditionally, like, into academics. And because I was academically strong, you kind of, like, you know, your personality in those days is a little paint by numbers sometimes. You're like, well, I'm not an auto shop kid because I'm a chemistry kid or whatever, right? Might be different. I've seen 21 Jump Street. It seems like a high school now operates under different parameters, and that's cool. But I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm concerned for the nation's youth, because I'm aware that, you know, every generation has been very concerned with the generation that comes after it for doing things slightly differently. But I was watching this new show on Netflix called Broken. They're talking about the prevalence of Juul in high school. You know, I call it Yule because it annoys the people who use it. But the vape device, what do you call it? A vape? I don't know. That sounds weird. That vernacular did not exist when I was learning the English language. Unvape? A-N-V-A-P-E? I don't know. There's apes, vapes, bathing apes. It's just today's day and age. It's a very confusing time, and I was like, man, a A lot of kids using these vape devices in school that are delivering nicotine at an unprecedented bioavailability. And they were talking to some of the kids, and I feel like I've espoused this attitude before, but when I look back, you know, I went to college in 2006. I feel like, I mean, at the time it was obviously modern. You know, when you're like, I know it's almost 15 years ago now, but when you're not going 15 years in the past. You know, you're there, that's the present day, you know what I mean? So it was modern at the time, but when I look back, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that, like, my college experience actually had, like, more in common with, like, people who went to college during the 1980s than people now. I think culturally, just my generation is a little more similar to, like, I mean, I'm 30. I think I'm more similar right now to 40-year-olds for the most part than 20-year-olds on a generational level. The reason I talk like a 20-year-old is because I'm on the internet all the time. So I maintain, I'm constantly being zoomerfied while my cells are getting boomerfied. It's a very, I'm being pulled in two different directions simultaneously. But they were talking to some of the kids in the high school, and they're like, I would never smoke a cigarette. Cigarettes are, like, gross. Cigarettes are, you know, dirty. They're stinky. They make your breath smell. You know, you've been inundated with advertising. I don't mean advertising in a negative way. I mean it in a positive way here. But, you know, marketing that has explained the dangers of, you know, smoking cigarettes since the time you were, like, 2 years old. And it's been very effective. But then one of the girls was like, I would say on average, I take a hit off of my Juul 40 times a day. I was literally expecting it to be like, you know, they probably do it like, you know, once breakfast, once at lunch, once at dinner. She was like, I take 40 hits a day. I was like, how much money is that are you spending on vapor? The money's literally going up in smoke. It's not really for financial reasons. That, I mean, I'm not really concerned. You know, you can live your life however you want to live your life. I'm just saying. It took me by surprise because I don't know anybody that's between the ages of 14 and 18 right now. I have a big, you know, generational blind spot, more or less. Like my entire social network is between the ages of about 27 and 36, maybe. You know, it's in that decade range. And then my, you know, I know a couple of people my parents' age. I call them mom and dad. So they're in their early 50s, so I get that perspective. And then I have, you know, two nieces that are still single-digit age. So I'm really... I knew we were going to get hit there. It was the perfect storm. I'm really missing that teenage perspective, and to hear that you know, I don't know if it's representative of the teenage population as a whole. To hear the girl say she hits her vape 40 times a day when she's like 17 years old, I was like, man. But I don't know, maybe it'll be different, you know? I'm not going to say that we lived a very healthy life in high school. I've talked about how bad, like, the diet was at our high school due to the cafeteria. And then, you know, the collegiate experience was just what it is in, like, 1980s and 90s college movies. Just way too much alcohol. And then when people were like, you know, it's bad for you. We were like, yeah, but we're, like, 19. So, like, that doesn't count, right? And I still don't know if that's like, obviously it counts, but, I mean, I'm sure it counts for a lot less, but still, you shouldn't really be leaning into it, is my perspective on the issue. I would never look at, you know, the younger generation and say that my generation didn't have problems. We were the generation that put Creed to #1, Good Charlotte, Simple Plan, etc., etc. Wouldn't be realistic for me. But it's just surprising. That's all I'm saying. I don't think we really care about Book of the Dead here. I don't think we care about too much. I think we start to care about this stuff. It's pretty good. Succubus is nice. Dead cat takes us one away from Guppy. Everything's going hunky-dory. I mean, I get myself in trouble. I know that I've had controversial opinions on vaping before. Here's my opinion. You know, don't blow big clouds in public, and there's no problems. I'll tell you, the bad vape actors, they do more damage to the reputation of vapors than is necessarily fair. But trust me, some bald guys in the past have done some bad stuff openly. I understand it reflects badly on me, so I should be a better person about it. But, you know, I think I've told this story a couple of times, but when, you know, there's this really loud dude in front of us on the airplane once, and he took a vape hit at 35,000 feet, and then his girlfriend was just like, stop it, stop it. I was like, I just hate you and everything you stand for, really. I want us to crash, so that even if I die, you're also killed as well. That was where I was at. I'm glad it didn't, in hindsight. Because then I wouldn't have anything to have complained about, you know? I would have, instead I would have, he lit up the room everywhere he was. That's my eulogy. If you don't blow clouds in public, I got no problem with it. But I will, you know, I'm always surprised because, like, it's kind of like Uber, right? Like Uber, it just sort of popped up and proliferated throughout the world without, you know, local governments having a chance to be like, is this something we really want? And I use Uber when I'm in places that allow it. But, you know, I'm also in a city that doesn't allow ride sharing, or it's literally just rolling it out as of the time of this recording. And I think that although it has been annoying to not have Uber and Lyft and other such services, it also kind of makes sense. And it's been frustrating and even embarrassing because the taxi industry here is horrible. But it also is given time for other cities to basically beta test it, and then our local government and citizens can weigh in on whether or not they feel like it's something that they want in their community. It's kind of the same thing with the, you know, the vapes, right? Like now they're starting to push back here with like legislation about advertising, and I'm always surprised to see people that are like mad that advertising is gonna have like new restrictions on it. I'm like, if you own a business related to it, I understand, because economically that's frustrating. But if you're just a consumer and you're like, the company that I like can't advertise, I'm like, what do you, dude? They don't care about you at all. I mean, they sort of might, you know, but it's like that scene from Thank You for Smoking, right? Where Rob Lowe's character is like, why would, who buys cigarettes? And then the guy goes like, smokers. And he goes, why would we want to make cigarettes harmful for people? We'd be killing our best customer. And the guy goes, oh, that's sensible. Anyway. Hope it came across in such a way. You know, I think that there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle. That's my perspective. Unfortunately, that happy medium might mean that you won't be able to let your 13-year-old son or daughter vape. And that's... I mean, when I was... Don't shoot the messenger, okay? When you're 13, you're not... Most people, at least, they're not capable of making long-term... Like, planning that takes their long-term interests in their best possible interests. You know what I mean? It takes their long-term interests into consideration, is what I meant to say. I stumbled over my words a little bit, but... When I was 13, I was concerned about... Oh, I got a term paper due in 3 weeks. And Everybody Loves Raymond is on tonight. And I didn't think about how embarrassing it would have to be for me to admit that a couple of days later. Don't do it. A couple of days later? Okay, try a couple of decades later. Can I tell you? So I got this is a banger of a story. This is like a top 5 story for the year. My parents are in town, right? 2 nights ago. Last night, Kate cooked a delicious Korean feast. I don't even know the names of half the dishes. There was like a vegetable pancake sort of thing, a bean sprout soup, a chicken soup, or chicken stew. No, it was not samgyetang. I know samgyetang. I told you I lived there for a year, okay? And it went amazingly. However, the night before that, I was in charge of dinner. I can cook. I want to be clear. But I was like, oh, you know what? My parents, they come from a slightly smaller area. It would be cool. Maybe we'll show them a, like, you know, DoorDash. Because, like, the idea of DoorDash for them is still, like, nonsensical, okay? It's like showing somebody a smartphone for the first time. It's a novel thing for them. So I was like, what do you want? And we found this restaurant. We ended up getting, like, 3 individual sized pizzas, and then my mom got a salad. This will become relevant very later in the story. So I ordered it on Kate's phone, and, you know, I was like, it's just that easy. It'll be here in half an hour. Half an hour later, I looked at Kate's phone, and there was a text message that said, we need to verify this is actually you. Please respond to this with the code that has been sent to you. And I was like, oh no. So they needed a 2-factor authentication to buy dinner for whatever reason with my own credit card in my name. And I forgot he spits out the bombs. Shouldn't have taken me getting hit twice, but it is what it is. So I put in the code, and it was like, okay, your food will be there in 35 to 45 minutes. And I said, okay, now it's going to be a half an hour. And we all had a nice little laugh about it. Ha ha ha, he kind of screwed it up, but not in a destructive way. Then, about 15 minutes later, we looked at the app, and it was a nightmare scenario, okay? The place that we live, sometimes different mapping services put it in different parts of the city. So I know it's a weird thing, but, you know, a lot of streets, not just in Vancouver, but in the cities surrounding Vancouver are named the same thing, or named very, very similarly. So we noticed that my man was going to the wrong address, which was not his fault. I want to be clear on that. It was a combination of my fault and the app's fault, because our address was inputted correctly and had been delivered to to the same location that we actually reside at many times successfully. But for whatever reason, I don't know, like the map API updated or something, so it was sending him across town. So I jump on the call, and I'm already like, oh, this is pretty not good for him. But I jump on the call, and I go, hey man, this is like your DoorDash order. I just want you to know you're, like, it's our bad, but you're going to the wrong location. The address that's listed is correct, but the location it's showing you on your map is not correct. So I gave him, like, verbal directions on how to get to the place, but he was very upset. He was like, am I going to be compensated? Like, I'm spending, you know, my gas and my time to do this. I want to, just to be clear, he was only like, he was probably 5 blocks out. We were lucky enough to have found it pretty quickly, but he was very displeased, and understandably so. Later, I found out that he was verbally angry with me on the telephone because he thought I was the DoorDash Corporation, not the individual that was receiving the order. So he apologized for that, but the story just continues to get weirder. So he made it, and he delivered it, and he was smiling when he brought the pizzas up. He was like, hey, sorry, like, I thought you were the company. It's okay, it happens, blah, blah, blah. Have a good night. We get inside, we get it all unpacked. We're like, oh, that's a relief that everything turned out. My dad opens up his pizza box, and the whole thing is just smashed against one side of the box, right? And it was like just a beautiful cascading moment. I opened my pizza box, and I'm like, I'm sure, like, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, oh, I can give my dad some of my pizza if his is ruined. Like, that's okay. I open mine up. Of course, mine is smashed. Kate opens hers up. Hers is smashed. My mom's salad is fine because it's in a bowl. And we were just like, oh my god. I posted a picture on Twitter, but they were like completely destroyed. Anyway, we still ate them. But we were laughing the whole time over dinner. I'm lucky my parents are easygoing. But we were trying to diagnose. We were like, is this on purpose or by accident? My dad was like, come on, this is on purpose. The only way that these pizzas could have gotten this destroyed if it had been by accident would be if he flipped his car. And I don't know if I've ever heard my mom laugh that hard. She was laughing for like half an hour at that one comment, which got me laughing. But I'm telling you, I genuinely, and this is not naivete. I know there are bad actors in the world. Moreover, he might feel justified in doing what he did if he did it. But then I was like, wait a minute. I remember I was preoccupied with like, oh no, is this guy going to be upset with us when I was picking up the food? But I remember he was holding the pizzas in like a reusable grocery bag, and the pizza boxes were stacked, not like laying flat, but laying on their ends. So I was like, I'm pretty sure that this dude actually, it's just a confluence of both me and him being pretty incompetent. I think he was like, yeah, just put the pizza boxes in here, whatever. And that ruined them. And I was like, yeah, just deliver them to this address. And I was like, actually, I don't live there. Anyway, the kicker to this story is, you know, we were laughing about it. We were eating for like, you know, an hour. Then after my parents left, we checked Kate's phone, and he was like, hey, can you please contact customer support? Because I can't mark the delivery as delivered because of the address change. And I was like, yeah. And then I had to explain to my parents. I was like, yeah, sometimes this just happens. Maybe we're still waiting to work out the kinks. Look, I take full responsibility for my role in the DoorDash caper of 2019. But it was a poor experience for sure. But it was also like, you know, my parents were like, you should really contact customer service and like get your money back for these pizzas because they're screwed up. And I was like, yeah, but like, I mean, I feel like part of the gig economy is like, you know, look, if he willfully screwed with the food, obviously he shouldn't have done that. But I honestly don't think he did. If I thought he had, I might have actually contacted support. But I honestly think he was just carrying them like vertically out of ignorance. And on top of that, I made a mistake that led to that situation in the first place. So, by the way, some of you people that tweeted me, I resonate with your DoorDash experiences, but you gotta understand the difference in severity of issues, okay? Somebody, and you probably watch this video right now, somebody tweeted me and said, yeah, I ordered from Buffalo Wild Wings the other night, and I specifically asked for all flat wings, and then when it arrived, they were not all flat. Look, that sucks. That's not on the same level, though, dude. I mean, come on. That's a special request. This was really just, please deliver the pizzas in an edible fashion, okay? I'm with you. Like, I don't want to undermine any solidarity we have, because I do think that I have many experiences of the same ilk. DoorDash, you know, forgetting items, or, you know, one time we ordered like sushi, and when the guy delivered it, he was like, sorry, I spilled all the miso soup when I was biking. And I was like, you're biking? I mean, it's admirable, but also, like, these are liquid-based foods, and, you know, we live in a city with a lot of traffic. And then he showed me his hand, and he had, like, you know, he had a modest burn on his hand from the soup obviously being spilled on him in transit. And he was just like, yeah, I burned myself pretty bad. And I was like, oh, you know, I don't want to, oh, come on. I don't want to sound too rude, but my internal dialogue was like, I mean, yeah, that's a burn, but, like, you know, what do you want me to do about it? I'm very pro tipping, but I don't necessarily feel like, you know, your choice of transit vehicle and the hazards that are involved in it necessarily. It's not really my fault you got burned carrying a big bowl of soup on a bike. I didn't deliberately, from the DoorDash corporation, go, yes, could you please make sure that somebody on a unicycle delivers this? Anyway. It might not sound like it based on what I just said, but I'm a friend of the gig economy. I'm giving 5-star reviews across the board. I'd give them 6 stars if I could. But this was maybe you had to be there for the whole brunt of the humor to hit you, but it was comical. And I'm lucky my parents have a good attitude about it. My mom was like, this was way better than if the meal had gone well, because now we have a story we can tell every time we're back in town. I was embarrassed. It's funny too, cause like you know, it's just happenstance. But the first time I ever cooked for my parents, I was in college, and I accidentally set off the smoke detector because they had them set super sensitive because they're boomers, and it was wired into like their home alarm system, and the fire department came. So really, I'm not great at the whole dinner for parents thing. But this has never happened to me outside of the parentals. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. Helps us a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. See ya!